Hey everyone, welcome to Thursday Night Book Club. We are in The Power of One More by Ed Mylett, chapters 10 and 11. Chapter 10 is One More Standard, and chapter 11 is One More Impossibility Thinkers and Possibility Achievers. Okay, so I really liked the emphasis on standards, because in all of our books that we read, there's so much emphasis on goals. But there's not usually standards that are mentioned. Hold on one second. Natalie, can you unmute really quick?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, thanks. I'll look, sorry, I'm gonna be too distracted. Okay. Yeah, so you don't usually hear standards being mentioned, right? You hear set your goals, go for your goals, but it's that I really like this this focus. So let me see. So for example, so if we're talking about, so let's break that down. For example, if you just hit gold and your goal is, you're like, okay, I'm getting some traction. I've, talked to my warm market. I've signed up people, I've, got to gold basically on my own, but now I want to hit senior gold. You're probably going to have to change some of your standards if you want to do it in X amount of time. So, have that conversation with someone or evaluate yourself. Like, hey, if I want to hit this in a couple months, then I might need to adjust my standards, not just my goals, but my standards. And so those standards might be, if before you were just doing your basic IPA and you were doing, 3 new contacts, 2 new follow-ups, all of that, then you might need to change your standard to, from now on, I'm going to talk to 6 people a day and I'm going to follow up with 4 people a day, and get more specific. He says on page 130, standards are most valuable when they are precise. And I think that really ties into Atomic Habits, that we just read, how he talks about being specific with, your habits and your goals and all of that. And it really ties in. So specifically in Atomic Habits, they called it the implementation intention, specifically setting a time, exactly what you want to do and when, and all of that. So, I really think that that's important. Just being like, so as a leader, just saying, oh, I want to make more videos for my team page this month. That's, that's a goal, but it's not a standard. So the new standard for me is every single week I make a video for the team page. And then I get specific with it, and I set an exact day, an exact time in my calendar with an alarm to go off to make that happen. Otherwise, those things, we've all done that. We've all said that. I want to try to do this more. I want to try to eat better. But if you don't get specific with it, you're not going to eat better, right? If you don't say, I'm going to eat exactly this, or I'm going to eat only, vegetables at every meal or whatever, or this amount of water, then it's probably not going to happen. So you really do need to define your standard of IPA and your personal growth plan. So we talk about IPA a lot and we talk about personal growth, but I think a lot of people really neglect on a personal growth plan, which is, I'm going to read for 15 minutes a day of whatever, or I'm going to watch 1 training video a day, or this many a week. What is your actual standard? And track it. Because otherwise a month will go by and you'll look back and you'll be like, well, I wanted to watch more training videos or whatever, but I actually only ended up watching 3 training videos this month instead of a training video a day, and it's simple. It's something you could have easily accomplished if you made a plan and you set a standard for yourself and you clearly defined it, precisely. Yeah, he says if you don't change your standards, then your goals are irrelevant. So like I was saying, in when you're setting specific standards, set a day at the beginning of the month to implement all of your intentions. How many silvers do you want to develop? How many people are you going to talk to about the business? How many events are you going to do? Set them up, set up weekly coaching call and schedule it. How many trainings and podcasts do you want to watch a week? So it's sit down and say, I'm going to schedule. You can even do that with the people on your team. You can schedule specific times into your calendar and go to them and say, hey, I have a slot on Tuesday at 8 to do a 3-way call with someone. Can you get that slot filled? And if they can't, then you can go and talk to somebody else on your team. Hey, I have this slot available. Can you get it filled? You can fill your own schedule with 3-way calls if you want to. If you really want to grow, if that is your standard, you can make it happen. Okay, on page 131, he says, here's something that's truly liberating. When you set the right standards that match your goals, your life becomes much less stressful, which I really loved. And I think relates back to the quote, those who love walking will go further than those who love the destination. And I absolutely, I'll never forget the season in my business when it shifted, where my success was measured. I felt like a success when I met my standard, and my standard was to do my IPA for the day. The IPA that I had defined for myself, which included, filling out the sheet, watching a video, wishing happy birthdays. I felt successful and I had so much less stress. And it's funny because I picked up this, I went to a store today and I picked up this card with a quote on it. And it says, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. And I was like, dang, yes, that's so good. So I really want you guys to, if you want less stress, then just focus on your standards. And then, just like they said in Atomic Habits, that your goals come as a byproduct of your habits, of your standards. So he goes through a list of things to consider when setting standards. He did like 10 of them. My favorites were, number 1, understand your why. If you don't understand your motivation behind why you're even showing up, then when you don't feel good, you're not going to show up. When when you have a little headache or a stomach ache, you're going to not show up. You're going to quit for the day. Or when you really understand your motives and you really understand your why, you're going to be like Sabrina over here, who just had surgery and she's on this book club. And you're going to be like Michaela over here, who it's her birthday, but she's still on here, right? Because she understands her why. They understand their why. They understand their motive. That's what keeps you showing up on days like that, where they could easily be somewhere else, and then I said, hold on. And then there's number 9 I'll skip to number 9, which I really liked, was set standards to please yourself. The quote there is, he says, this is your journey. This does not belong to anyone else. It's personal. And that's why when I hear people say like, well, my family's not supporting me, or my husband's not supporting me, or they don't get it, or my family doesn't get it. It's not anybody else's job to get it. It's not anybody else's job to support you. It's only your job to support you. It's your standards. There was a time when I was senior Ruby. I was going for Emerald. I knew that I would hit it eventually. And I don't think I hit it for another year at this point, but I remember being like, this isn't their dream. They aren't going to get it. I heard something or heard a podcast or whatever. And I had that epiphany moment. I was like, they're not going to get it. They don't know what I know. And I wasn't mad. It was like an acceptance. It was like a freedom that nobody had to understand it. Nobody had to get it except for me. This is my journey. This is what God told me to do. This is where I have to show up and honor what I decided to do. So let that for you, that nobody else has to get it. You don't have to convince anybody of your journey or your worth or your decision. And people aren't going to get it because this is very unconventional. It is very misunderstood. It's what people don't think it is, like it's different than what people think it is. So they're not going to get it. And you have to be okay with that. When I felt like quitting, and he talks about that, welcome to the human condition. You're gonna feel like quitting in certain seasons. You can't always trust your feelings. But when I was at this point where I was like, I don't know, life is so hard, blah, is it worth it? And I went and I looked at all of my pain points. I remember the very last thing that I wrote down is, I just want to prove to myself that I can become a Jewel. And that is when I became so much more empowered, because it wasn't about proving it to everybody else that I could do it, proving it to my family, proving it to other people, all of that. Like, it wasn't about any of that anymore. It was just about me proving to myself that I could do it. And that empowered me more than anything else, because don't give away your power to anyone. It's, you keep it and you empower yourself and you become your own biggest cheerleader. And then on page 137, he says, as you develop higher standards, you'll also enjoy more resilience. You'll bounce back from setbacks quicker. And I guarantee you, the higher you go in this and the higher standards you set, because with each rank, you have to set higher standards and you do bounce back quicker. So chapter 11 is a lot more straightforward. One more on possibility thinkers and possibility achievers. And it's basically about, don't just be a dreamer, be a doer, but also don't just think about it, actually take action on it. Right. And he talks about how both taking action and our thoughts are important, but not to forget the action part, because action is just as important. He talks a lot about the book Think and Grow Rich. He says he would rename it Think and Do Rich. But man, he had me really wanting to read that book after this. On page, I loved how he said on page 142, the man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does. And I think when I read that, I was like, man, that's really the essence of what we do. And that's the essence of what successful people do, because in the beginning, you're doing a lot more work than you're getting paid for. And then at the end, as you become Jewel, then you're getting paid more than what you're doing yourself. Not that you're not working hard, but that is what it's about. I mean, you have to have a willingness to do more than you're getting paid for. And that's what leads you to success in this. And so just, if anything, don't forget that. Okay. And last thing that I've written. Oh, okay. Okay. So anyways, I'm going to skip to the questions. Number 1, what is one standard that you're going to make or improve upon after reading this chapter?
I don't know if it's like a specific standard, but being more specific. You've held us to that accountability, which I appreciate. Like, as awesome as anyone might be, let's actually pick a day and time, because life does happen. And even if you have to pick, I'd say 2 slots, your main one and a backup one, just literally holding yourself more accountable, with specifics for sure, intent good intent doesn't get you far.
That's like that quote, like we measure, like, what is it? Like we measure ourselves by our intentions, but we measure others by their actions. Yeah.
And that speaks to his silent movie thing. Like if you couldn't hear your own thoughts, if you had to write your own story, what would it say based on your actions?
Boom.
I'm going to piggyback off of Tova because I think she nailed it. And I think that's exactly where I'm at, is like, not just in my head, but get specifics and write it out. Like put it on paper, be very intentional about what it is, how I keep saying, like, I'm going to show up. I need to show up for myself. Here's how I want to show up. But without that action of like getting it on paper and not just in my head, because I can say like, yeah, I want to wake up early and I want to do this, but I'm not putting that like specifics to it. So I think just getting it out of my head on paper or doing something physical with it instead of just keeping it in my head where I'm just like not making that commitment, right? It's the accountability, just like Tova was saying. So being just way more specific and putting it out there.
I loved where it talked about don't overthink it, because I think sometimes, you know, for me, for a long time, it was just get it on paper, get it on paper. I got it on paper, had the most epic plan. And then I start thinking about it too much. And then I'm overthinking about it. And there's less execution because I got the perfect plan, right? Like I made the perfect thing. I've got everything in, made the lists. And then there was no execution because it was just like overthinking. Is this right? Is this it? And so I think that's really important when raising a standard is not to overthink that process, because that can easily be the thing that's holding you back, right? It's like just execute and just do it. And it's not going to be perfect and it's going to be a little messy sometimes, and that's okay. And I've come to accept that. But I think even for me, that's something that I still have to just check myself on. Like, am I overthinking this? Or am I not executing enough? So
Yeah, I think overthinking.
I thought this was really good with goal setting, where he says on 127, if you don't change your standards, then your goals are irrelevant. How many times, this is like a totally new way of thinking about this, but how many times are we like, set goals, set goals, set goals? Well, if your standards aren't changing, if your standard is okay with skipping book club, missing team call, not finishing your IPA because you're not a person of completion, not being consistent, like, then your goals are irrelevant. Why are we going to set these goals? I just thought that was a really interesting sentence. And then the one right before it, I loved, if you're willing to tolerate something, then that's probably what you're going to get. Like if you're going to allow yourself to not hit your goals, you're going to allow yourself to sleep in and to make excuses, then why do you expect anything less? Why do people get frustrated? Like, I don't understand why I'm not ranking up. Well, here's these areas that you're not having a high standard with. So I just thought that was so good. Just those sentences alone, like, close the book, you learned something. That was really good.
Solid, for real. Okay, share that's all we need. All right, everybody go home. All right. Share a shift that happened when you adjusted your standards. So maybe you had an aha moment and you were like, all right, I gotta change my standards. What did you shift and what were your results?
I'm gonna throw in here. Natalie, what rank was it that I finally started coming to book club? I don't know, is it senior gold? It was a while. Maybe gold, I don't know. But I was working 24-hour shifts and I was like, you're lucky I make it to Monday night call. Like, stop asking things of me. And she diplomatically told me, like, you're doing really well and you're succeeding, but if you want to succeed, in essence, you're gonna have to change your standard. And the standard of successful people is to come to book club and Monday night call. So like, what are you going to do? And I had the same conversation with Sabrina. And so I was like, okay, challenge accepted, new standard accepted. And then I obviously continue to rank up. And I do think club was an integral part of that. But it's, I think committing to book club, it's 50% book club and it's 50% like you're giving up 2 nights a week because this is serious. So I think a shift happens with it. Mindset shift happens at the same time.
So good.
I actually kind of had the opposite thing. For me, it was, I'm going to do all the things myself. Like, I'm going to do book club and Monday night call and all my IPA and everything I'm supposed to do, because I'm just going to climb this ladder and do it all myself. And then my shift came where it's like, not only do I not want to do this myself, not only do I absolutely need a team and guidance and coaching and business builders, and I want all of that, but that actually came like right before Senior Gold. And I'm still Senior Gold all these months later, but I might be the same rank, but my growth has been exponential once I've realized that, like, not only do I not want to do this alone, like I want to grow in these other areas, so I can do all the things, but like I want to duplicate this and be more of a leader and like bring this to others. So it was kind of like a different thing, because like from the get-go, I was like, I'm going to do it all, right? But it's so much bigger than that, you know, like having this team and just being surrounded by more, helping others grow in this business. Like that's really what it's all about. It's not just like this self box that you put yourself in, is like, you know, I could do it, you know. So that was my like aha moment, like, oh no, not gonna just be me. And I don't want it to be.
So good. Yeah, Natalie said what I was thinking too, like humility. Like you can see how you had to have that humility, and then from that comes more peace, more increase, you know. And Tova too, like same deal. Like you have to have humility to change your standards, and just to even realize like, hey, my standards might not be right. My standards might need some adjusting. So I love that. That's good.
I'm
Who
gonna
else?
give this up really fast. On page 136, he says it's unhealthy to compare yourself or your standards to others. And that's something I had to check myself on super quick, because you're already on a roller coaster in this business. And by comparing yourself to somebody else's activity that's not your own activity, it's not relevant. You cannot stick to somebody else's standards. So that was something that I had to learn myself, and I try to teach my girls, this is your own ride. You can't compare. All that's going to do is drag you down faster. So if you're trying to meet somebody else's success or their standards, it's going to drag you down faster because you can't keep up with them because you're at your own pace. So I love that he said that in this chapter. And again, even though I'm still working on it, it checked me again to reevaluate that and just to keep growing in that area. So I was really happy he said that here.
So important, right? Like if you just have a baby and you can't compare yourself to someone who's an empty nester and or has no kids, and like, you know, like the standards can't be the same in that, you know, right then and there, you know, and that's totally okay, you know? Okay. Anybody else? Next question. Feel free to hop in and answer the last question if you're still thinking on it. What specific actions have you taken toward improving your thought life?
One thing that I've always have told myself is that you don't have to think about every thought that comes into your mind. That's something that's always been big for me. Like just because I get a thought doesn't mean that I have to sit there and ponder and think about it and then like just let this one thought marinate. Like it's a waste of time if this thought is not effective, it doesn't align to the word of the Lord, it's not real, it's not me, this is not reality, this is just a random thought that came into my mind. So I think that that was a game changer for me when I was like, oh, I don't have to think about this. This is garbage thoughts. Like, I don't have to, waste my time thinking about this. So I don't know. Just want to throw that in there.
But isn't there a specific quote like that you say about that? There's like a specific quote, like thoughts are just visitors or something like.
Probably.
Okay.
It's probably something I would say.
Okay.
I really want to know if women have a problem with like our thoughts, like, and what's it called? Positive affirmations, all that stuff. Like, if we have more of an issue with it than men because we think so much more, like they're like focused on one thing and we're just thinking all these things. I just have to wonder if we have an issue with negative thoughts more than men. But on that note, I just have to tell myself, like with my thoughts, like if I'm telling myself something negative, I just try to stop myself and realize like I just rephrase it all, and tell myself something positive and realize, especially like females, if you are having a bad day or whatever, that it's not a bad life, it's a bad day, all those things. So really just turning your negative or whatever thoughts positive has helped me a ton.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, women, like all of our thoughts, like women are, what do they say? Like women are like spaghetti, like it's all mixed together, and like men are like waffles, like it's all in like a little compartment. And that is like the difference between how we think. Like everything is like just from one subject to another, and then everything is mixed up for us.
Yeah, I get sick of it. My brain feels like spaghetti too. Like that's what it feels like, just what it looks like. And I think that the thought process thing, it's literally every hour of the day. I'm not even kidding. Like when I get woke up in the middle of the night, sometimes I just gotta lay there and just adjust my mindset. Like, I'm glad my baby is breathing and okay, and he's crying and he needs to eat again. I'm so thankful I get to love on him. And it really does work. And then I can enjoy having to be up at 3 a.m. again. It really is, your mindset has so much power to make this life beautiful or to have it be literal hell, because you're focusing on all of the wrong things and blowing them out of proportion too. So that's something that I've been doing lately in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
One
What
thing
a,
that go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
One thing I've really been working on, it kind of ties in is to everything, is affirmations. And they say set a goal, and my broad goal is I want to do affirmations, but I never like set a time or was specific. And so I had seen an app and I downloaded it, and they're giving me the affirmations to say. And it's just kind of to change that thought process and mindset, because it's not always easy. Like we know we have to do it and we talk about it every week. But kind of I need an extra push. I was that kid that always needed my mom's foot in my ass, as she would say. So it's like kind of helping me change that mindset for myself, because it's easier said than done, but I'm now saying them out loud. So I'm hearing myself say it, which completely changes my mindset. And now it gives me a specific time every single day to do it. So it's 3 times a day, and I'm stopping exactly what I'm doing to be in that moment and really work on myself for a minute. And I think it kind of ties into every question we've kind of had.
So important. I have my like song that I listen to, that I've been listening to my entire business, that I talk about all the time. But it's basically like a song of affirmations where it's like declarations, but you can even, if you're struggling with your mindset or certain thoughts that are holding you back, I mean, you can do thought coaching. Tova just did a call on that for us about the whole thought model and how you can work through it and, get your thoughts in check basically, and not having so much power over yourself. So all of those things you can actually rewire your brain right now. Totally. So All right, guys, it's 9:35, so we will end there. But thank y'all so much for participating. Loved it. And we'll see y'all next week.